What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony from hashtag Be the Change. Truth will set you free. And of course, where we are right here, blunt force discussion. We've got another episode today. It's been a while. I know I do these more sporadically for a while every week, but these digital ones, I want to find the right people, the ones that can provide a little bit of entertainment, information, and maybe motivate you to take charge of what's going on in life. And sometimes I like to disagree with people. Maybe we'll find a topic that we don't fully agree on. Who knows? But we got a very special guest, influencer, conservative, co-founder of Pretty Little Patriot. You probably know who she is if you follow me. She's got a pretty big following and also incredibly informative. And I've shared plenty of her stuff. You're going to enjoy it. Let's get the show started with Kendall Bailey.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Then I'm going to do the whole cool blunt force discussion thing.
Okay, well, first of all, I feel so honored the way that you were saying like you're going to pick special people. So I really appreciate you having me. You just want me to introduce myself, give my full
Absolutely.
story,
Yeah,
or
a
what are
little
you
bit
looking
more
for?
about how you got into influencing, and then we'll kick the show off.
Okay, so long story short, hopefully not long story longer. I was kind of brought onto the scene, I feel like, through some news channels when they picked up my story. I was not hearing well. So my husband's like, you got to go see the ear, nose, and throat doctor. Like something's going on. We were at a restaurant and she said, can I get you anything else to eat? Or no, the waitress said, can I get you more bread? And I said, oh, we're fine. We'll just take more bread. And that's when he was like, that's it. Like, you're not hearing well. Go. They'll clean your ears, whatever it is. We go to the ear, nose, and throat doctor, and they find out that I have otosclerosis, which is progressive deafness, and that I need to have surgery for it. While I was there, he's like, hey, I'm an ear, nose, and throat doctor. Let me feel your throat. Finds a lump, finds out that it's cancer. So we schedule my full thyroidectomy. The night before surgery, again, my husband says, you're pregnant. Like, no, there's no way. Like, this is the only month we can't be pregnant. And he just had an inkling. I think it was God just being like, hey, I think something's up. Sure enough, I'm pregnant. We call our anesthesiologist and my surgeon right away. And they say, we can go through with surgery. We can do a full thyroidectomy and we'll just adjust your levels of anesthesia to make sure that you and baby are safe. Well, I wake up from surgery, find out that the cancer has spread. And this is when we're given a choice to either abort our baby and start treatment, because treatment essentially would kill our daughter, or put it in God's hands. And as quickly as they told us was as quickly as we had the answer that this is not our child, this is God's child, and he gave her to us for a reason. So I went through with her pregnancy. We delivered Presley at 9 months. I breastfed her for 2 months, got all the milk out of my body, started radiation, and now I'm cancer free. And I wear hearing aids. I do wear hearing aids because the surgery didn't work for that, but cancer free.
I think that's a good way to start. You're like,
Well, I felt, I know.
Off. Like, hey,
I like poured out everything.
Right, way to go, cancer survivor. Cut you off. There you go. All right. So that's cool. I mean, it's interesting. And again, this show airs always within a week or so. And it's kind of timely. So you were able to hold off on chemo. And we're going to talk about, how you got into conservatism and patriotism and all that stuff. I think you and I, the one thing we're very similar on the whole, like, let's be as holistic as humanly possible. That's a lot of the stuff that I've shared with you. I know a lot of the stuff we've even talked about in terms of the chemicals, pharmaceuticals, plastics, and all that. So being somebody that is a cancer survivor that pushed on, are you seeing what happened with Suzanne Summers right now, to kind of change the subject?
No,
So,
inform me.
Suzanne Summers just passed away, and a lot of I talked about MedPage because do you get MedPage emails?
I don't, but do I need to?
You should. It
Okay.
is the poster child of what major medicine is telling people and how they shame people. So they did a slam piece on Suzanne Summers, who used to be very anti-vaccine. So she was already, the scarlet letter. And then they talked about the fact that she did not get chemotherapy. She was trying holistic cures. And for you, it wasn't about avoiding chemotherapy for you. It was about avoiding chemotherapy for your child.
I think if I had done it again, I would have gone the more holistic approach. I think we would have had Presley. I would have had my thyroid removed. I think we would have given birth to Presley. And then I would have done some more holistic things. I think in that moment, I was so focused on my pregnancy, so focused on being a mom, so focused on just moving on with my life that I did the quickest thing. And knowing what I know now about medicine and how far removed I am from the whole COVID thing, and now I don't give my children any vaccines, I think now knowing that, yeah, I would have handled it differently.
How many years ago did all this happen?
This was 9 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How how
And
many
I
kids do you
go
have now?
regularly and I'm healthy. My hearing is still really bad. Again, it's a progressive deafness, and so I will continue to lose hearing. But I do wear hearing aids, and right now they work for me, and I'm really thankful for them.
How
I also
many,
have Bluetooth. I have Bluetooth in my hearing aids, so I can get all my phone calls. I can watch TV through them. It's amazing.
oh, so you look like the bionic woman. You get a phone call and you're
Oh yeah.
literally just like,
I'm like, hello.
yeah.
Yeah.
People think you're nuts.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah. They're like, this woman's talking to herself. She doesn't have an
I
AirPod.
don't have an earbud. Totally.
Do you have, how does it work? Do you have to like tap, like,
I do have to like answer my phone, but then it immediately goes into my ear.
that's
And
good.
I was on set recently filming for something and my phone was ringing and it was on silent, but it was ringing in my ear. And I was like, "You guys, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that that cut." And everyone's like, "I don't hear anything." I'm like, "Oh, it's in my ear." But I'm so thankful for my hearing aids. I think we need to make them cool again.
Yeah.
I feel like if people can't hear, or I'm sorry, if people can't see, they proudly wear glasses or contacts. And for some reason, there's a stigma about hearing with you have to be an older person, maybe.
Right.
But there's so many people who constantly have earbuds in. I think it's so damaging to hearing, and I think there are way more people than we know that suffer with hearing loss.
Oh, I 100% agree. And hearing aids have gotten a little, they definitely gotten cooler. The fact that you can
It's
answer
gotten
your
way
phone on
cooler.
it's pretty awesome. But I know some deaf people that used AirPods. Yeah, AirPod Pros actually helped with deafness almost as much as hearing aids. They just obviously look
Really?
like you always have those in. But
Yeah, okay.
so
Now
how many
tell me
kids you
your thoughts on the vaccine. I actually just did another podcast about this. Are you now completely, and have you always been like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing the flu. I'm not doing polio, whatever they are, measles.
Oh, so my background, Kendall, is my mom was she's a chiropractor. So I was raised holistic. So I
Okay.
actually had we had to plead Christian Scientist when I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, because I did not have I had my first set of vaccines when I was up to like 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
Um, and then the reason my mom became holistic, I was hypoglycemic and had febrile seizure at the age of like 18 months and almost died then. And that's when my mom ended up going back to school to become a chiropractor, because the person that saved my life was a chiropractor, because they were able to, well, not in the hospital, but they got me off phenobarbital. They got me off of seizures, and I had a stutter. Ironically enough, I speak for a living. I had a stutter. All that was done with applied kinesiology. So my mom went back to school for that. So I've been away. Ironically enough, my mom in the 90s goes, the thing that's going to take this country down is going to be a vaccine that'll be forced upon people. And like literally, I'm like, cool, mom, you're not crazy at all.
Right. And
Oops.
that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So that I've always been an anti-vaccine person. I don't
Okay.
know if I had the right to vaccinate. If I had a child, what I would do for all vaccinations. I know MMR would be an absolute no until it'd be an absolute no. But if was forced to do it, would be after the age of 3, because that's what all science points to. But
Okay.
you sound like you made a switch. Why? What was your switch based off of?
Totally made a switch. So I was the individual who was like, that's so granola. So I grew up in Colorado, Boulder, Colorado, super liberal, super granola town. And it was the weird homeschooled kids. And I say that now like cringing because now I'm like pushing for people to homeschool. But it
Agreed.
was weird back then. Like they weren't social, let's be honest.
No,
And it
I
was
made
those
fun of
weird
homeschoolers.
homeschooled. Yeah, I feel like they were kind of odd. They were kind of socially awkward and they weren't vaccinated. And then they weren't allowed to be around like other kids when they weren't vaccinated. People were like, wait, what
Right.
about it? And I was always thinking, like, now roles reversed. I'm thinking, but if I was vaccinated, then why couldn't I have been like my vaccine was safe for me? Why did I need those kids to get vaccinated to be safe for me.
Right.
And I think when COVID happened and I realized they were forcing us to take something and it wasn't an option, is when I thought, okay, well, I'm definitely not doing this for my family. We're definitely not doing the Fauci ouchie. But then I'm like getting to know all these other companies who are talking about it. And once, like you, once you dip your foot in the pool, everything is exposed. Like it's like the Matrix. Once you open your eyes, you can't go back. And I opened my eyes and realized I don't trust doctors with anything.
Kendall, I was talking about it on my show yesterday. There's a doctor that's friends with Peter Hotez. I always call him Hotep because I really don't care what his name is. He's a slimy pile of garbage. But um, his buddy, gosh, what's his name? Whoever it was, this other doctor, it boggles my mind that there are still doctors out there that believe this way. The doctor's name is Henry Rosenberg, and of course he's followed and he's best friends with Hotez. He's talking about Mary Lou Retton. Mary Lou Retton refused to purchase health insurance and was an anti-vaxxer. She got sick. Her daughters raised $500,000 for her care. Just remember, you're not Mary Lou Retton. If you get sick, you're on your own. All right, kind of a jerk move, kind of a dickish thing to say. But then he continues. This is. We're filming this in end of October 2023, and this doctor said this yesterday. You are free to take your chances, but it doesn't only affect you. The failure of people to get vaccinated means we never had a chance to reach herd immunity, which is why COVID won't go away. And you could infect someone who is immunocompromised, leading to their death. This is still this doctor's belief. That's not his belief system. This is what he is being still propagating the American people. How sick is that?
It's pure fear mongering. It's pure fear mongering. It's pure gaslighting. And it goes against everything that the left. First of all, I will say the left is so good at their marketing. They're so good with word choices. Like, how can anybody not be, my body, my choice? Well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Or, all this stuff with like Black Lives Matter. Well, yeah, of course Black Lives Matter, but like it's bigger than that. They're just so good with their word choices and they kind of get you with that. But yeah, I mean, they're just peddling it left and right. And to me, when they said you have to get this, is when I thought, this is weird. This
Yeah.
is kind of like, let's all move you towards the gas chambers and everybody's going to go in and you're going to take a shower and it's going to be fine.
It'll be just fine.
It'll be just fine. And it's interesting because I think all these people came out wearing masks, which was something I participated in for the first, I think maybe week, maybe 2 weeks. And then I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. We're finding out more about this. It's not that scary. We start taking them off. And people honestly are thinking like, you're killing someone by not wearing a mask. And I'm thinking, but if you're wearing one and you're keeping 6 feet distance and you got the vaccine, then you're safe.
Because that makes sense.
Right. Right. And I am worried. I don't know if you are. I am worried that this will happen again. I'm almost positive it's going to happen again. And it'll be interesting to see how many people actually comply round 2. Because if we have a round 2, we won't have a round 3. We'll just be stuck in 2. And forever, this is how we're going to live.
I think they tested it out a couple months ago. I think we are starting to see that. I saw masks coming back. I fly all over the country, and some of the liberal areas, they were putting the mask back on, which again, ironic because not a single shred of scientific evidence shows that it's good, that actually helps with COVID. Not a single thing. I know
the CDC came out and said they vocalized that masks don't work.
Right. Yeah. So I think they tested it again. Now the lockdowns. Now we could debate this right now. Do we think, first off, do you think, and I know we're not going to talk much about the election cycle, but do you think there will be an election in 2024?
Gosh, I mean, if you had asked me a few months ago, like obviously, but now that people are saying things like this, I'm thinking, because I'm one of those people who, people do these conspiracy theories and they mention them at first, and I'm like, that does sound kind of weird. And then the more that I think about it, everything that people have brought up that sounds really weird actually happens.
Yeah.
What is your take?
So I remember, Roseanne's Roseanne. I heard her say it, and then we started debating it on some of the other shows. I'm not certain that we're going to have an election in 2024. I don't know why though, because right now, like you said, I think they're testing everything. Like, would it be another pandemic? Would it be COVID version 37, or is it World War? because if it's the world war, if all of a sudden Israel, Hamas, Russia, Ukraine, whatever virtue signaling other country they could bring up, if America is at risk, they could play that game. And I think what they're doing, like you said with COVID, they're testing to see what might be something that they could pull the strings, because they know that Biden can't win again, no matter who he goes against, even if he goes against Trump, which is incredibly hated enough
Can
to
you
vote him out.
imagine if we enter a world war and Joey is in charge?
It would be a bad situation.
It would be a horrible situation. It
Yeah.
would be horrible. And the other things I think that they're testing too are things like, okay, you said you travel a lot. I do too. My husband finally convinced me to get clear. Do you have TSA? First of all, are you TSA?
I'm pre-check. Yeah.
You're pre-check. Okay, I am too. My husband just did the clear a couple months ago. And I'm like, I'm not doing that because they're going to scan our eyes. They have to take a fingerprint. And I just don't want them to have all that information. And my husband's thinking, they already have all that information.
They did.
They already have it. And so I finally got it. I did it. And then I felt super guilty afterwards because I'm thinking, well, first of all, I got to get in front of everybody, which was awesome. But then I'm thinking, that's just that much more information that they have on me. And they do it because they say, well, but then you can get through the line faster.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, but if you just wear the mask, then we can go back to normal life. And it's this constant control. So you think that you're making the decision to do it because they're like, but it's a good choice.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of stuck.
Yeah. I did clear in January or February of 2020. So it was kind of pointless because I didn't travel. But at that point, I had the same thing. I'm like, I don't want them to have my stuff. And then finally, when I did it, now I haven't done it since. And I used it like one time and I'm like, oh, yeah. Awesome. But again, they've got it if they want. Did you attend January 6th?
I did not.
Did not. Okay.
Did you?
I have my own FBI agent. We're BFFs.
Okay.
Fortunately I live in the country. So I got a good one. What I believe is a good one. Like I went out to barbecue. Everybody's like, Anthony, don't speak to the FBI. Cause I didn't go in. My close friend did. And he's been in jail. He gets out in a few months. Do you remember Cashley Kelly?
That sounds familiar.
Black dude that was like, when are Black lives going to matter to Black people? He was smoking a cigarette, wearing the tank top in the car that went super viral. Hodge twins. Anyways, so he was actually how we developed a following on my channels. To Be the Change and all that stuff was with him. We became fast friends, but I didn't go in. I knew that I went close enough to where there could be some kind of risk, especially now. The first question they asked me, by the way, was, is there any way that, because at the time it was Be the Change, is there any way that Be the Change could be deemed a hate group? I'm like, based on the name, I feel like that'd be really counterproductive. But at the end of the day, my friends are like, Anthony, you can't talk to the FBI. You need to get a lawyer. I'm like, I'm not spending $300 on a lawyer. I speak for a profession. I know what's going to get me in trouble and what doesn't. So here I am, still out of jail 2 years after being interviewed, and went to lunch with said FBI agent, learned some things about how much they actually have access to just by happenstance. But needless to say, Facebook Messenger is not secure. Anyways.
None of it is. I mean, for you to bring that up, I feel like people think, once you put something on the internet, it's there for forever. Well, that's true. But it's even when you put something on the internet, just in between what you think is two people, a direct message, there's nothing direct about that message. Like you think that's between two people, but I have had people message me on Instagram and say like, my account was suspended and that's only after me sending like a direct message to you. I never post online. And it's wild.
Do you think Facebook or do you think WhatsApp is secure?
I don't think any of them are.
I don't either.
I mean, I truly even Truth Social. I'm sorry, Getter. I don't think any of them are secure. And I think I feel so hypocritical because I'm thinking I have Alexa in my home. Like I'm one of those stupid people that just invited the government into my home. It was interesting. The other day, my alarm went off on Alexa. Do you have an Alexa?
I had one at one point. I don't have one in Kelly's house, but no.
Okay. Well, so it went off. My alarm went off. And I said, Alexa, turn off the alarm. And she said, I'm not connected to the internet right now. Try reconnecting your router. And I'm thinking she was smart enough to set my alarm off. And she's smart enough to tell me that she's not connected. She's always on. She's always listening. And it's a false sense of security for us to think that she's not.
Quick question for you with Alexa. Do you ever partake, and I don't know if you talk about it online, do you ever partake of marijuana?
No, I smoked it once when I grew up in Colorado, so it was like big
Right.
there. Smoked it once, had the worst experience ever, and I'm like, I'll never go back.
Yeah. So I like it's once every few months. Like I'll
Okay.
have an edible like on a Sunday, like end of the night, like going to bed and
Yeah.
like laughing at TV. I'm that kind of, if that ever affects me from being president, you could piss off. But
Yeah, yeah.
so I remember back in the day when I did have Alexa, I used to live in downtown Dallas. We'd have friends over, we'd watch a movie. I guarantee you somebody in the Alexa department knew when we were high, when we were stoned.
Totally.
Like we would do things like we would be asking questions or like, what's this? Right. And I'm like, am I paranoid? And all of us like, are they flipping our words? Like, and all of us in the same room were like, I'm not that high, but she's effing with us. I know she is.
What was she saying?
I wish I could, I need to script it and remember like really, really deep down, but it would be like, I would ask like, maybe I had it connected to my TV or something like that. It'd be like
Right.
change to XYZ TV, and it'd be like changing to it would say they're about to order stuff. That's what it was. It would all of a sudden be like going to Amazon to order new shoes. If we were watching the movie, like say we wanted to order the movie Sneakers from 1990 something, whatever. It was something along those lines where it would find a way to almost order something, and I'm like, what is happening? I don't
Oh
trust
my
any of it because
gosh.
either
She
they're
could
listening
smell
or they're
it. She
messing.
could smell the devil's lettuce through the speakers.
She could.
She
She
could.
could. God, I need to I need to message the people that I was with them. No, they're all liberal. They don't talk to me anymore. They don't. Otherwise,
That's
no
another
one
thing.
does.
I mean, how many friends and family members did you lose during over the last 3 years?
Kendall, I'm in the back of my girlfriend's house in Stephenville, Texas, in my own little office. I don't have any of my old friends from Dallas. Zero. Literally, this is my bunker. I might as well be the 41-year-old guy living with his mom in the basement with nothing better to do. I
We'll
don't
just
have
call
a
you
ton of friends.
Joey. We'll just call
What?
you Joey.
Just call me
Hey,
Joe.
I think
I'm running for president from the back room of a Stephenville house.
not with your use of marijuana, you're not.
Didn't
Um,
didn't Obama admit to doing cocaine? No, did he never admit that?
I'm pretty sure he did actually.
Yeah.
I thought he did.
I didn't
And
inhale though.
they're trying to make smoking cool again because Obama smoked, but now his daughter, I can't remember if it's Sasha or is it Malia?
I think it's Malia that's the addict.
Malia. They're trying to like bring that back. That like, do you know how hard people worked with the DARE program to not have kids smoking or doing drugs? And then she does one puff and it's all over every magazine. And they're like, this is so cool. This is like Mad Men. Let's bring it back, even though it's totally cancer causing.
But I think she's way over the top with it because, I mean, these are things that get pushed under the rug, but I'm pretty sure her credit card was being used to cut cocaine in Hunter Biden's laptop. But let's not talk about it.
Yeah, really. Let's not talk about it. I mean, it's the same thing. Like someone dies clearly of COVID, and you're like, did they get the vaccine? And you can't ask. Like
Can't even
none
ask.
of these questions can be addressed.
It's like you're telegraphing last night's show because we haven't talked about the whole reason I started doing this was more over COVID than anything else. And
Okay.
like you, the mandate was the issue. But like last night was one of the nights we brought up the vaccine again because I saw that message from the doctor thinking that it's still preventing her to meet. It's like what doctoral world do you live in? But like you, I had a feeling. So this is March of 2020, right as the first lockdown happened, either Sweden or Denmark, one of those countries. It was one of those two they said, if there is a vaccine that comes out, it will be mandatory or people will go to jail. I saw that and I was like, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be forced. I also looked at I'm not a 5G conspiracy theorist at all, but I do understand nanotechnology. I find it weird that mRNA uses nanotechnology, which technically can communicate with 5G. And I also find it very weird that once 5G comes on our phone, it doesn't work. Isn't 5G supposed to be better? It doesn't work. LTE is still 8 million times better. It doesn't make it. So to me, and that was in March of 2020.
Now, so on that, what did you do what was the date that it was?
October 4th?
2nd, 4th. What did you do?
I let the alarm go off on my phone. I laughed at it. Like I know, like.
So you clearly didn't explode. I was someone who I'm like, I don't get what this is, but I didn't take the juice, so I wasn't too concerned.
That's what I said
but
too.
I also thought it wouldn't hurt for me to be without my phone. Actually, it would benefit me to be without my phone for 30 minutes. So I took myself and my kids, because they were on break. Conveniently, they weren't at school. I took myself and my kids. We went on a walk. I put the phone in the microwave. Someone was like, put it in the microwave. And then I got so much heat for it, pun intended, because people were like, no, you're supposed to put it in tinfoil first and then in the microwave and then this. And I'm like, listen, I just was out without my phone. If they really want to get to me, I'm going to come back to my phone and it's going to get to me. Like, there's just no missing it. And I feel like I am a Christian, and I think there's this line of living in fear and living without fear. I mean, God has called us to be living without fear, without timidity. And I think I want to be smart about those decisions, but I also don't want to, be nuts about it
Right.
and believe every single conspiracy theory.
And I hate I keep using the stuff that I don't like to talk about, like 5G and like the word psyop. Like, to me, this was and I saw it immediately after. The next day, they're like, look at these crazy conservatives. They use this crap that, like you said, that's not going to be the way they're going to get to us. They
Right.
use this stuff to create fodder to make us look dumber, plain and
Yeah.
simple. Like, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect marketing. This is the continued marketing to make us look bad. Like, I don't know. And I see that, and I see that they're so much better at marketing. The not just the left, but
They are.
pharma, they're just so good at marketing.
They're so good at marketing, and it's terrifying. I wish that we could come up with something. I was talking to Bobby, take naps. It's his handle, Bobby.
Yeah. The sauce.
And we were saying they're so good at their marketing, and the thing is, they also have unity. Everybody comes around them, and you can't ever be woke enough for them, and they will kick you out at some point. But when they're going hard with a campaign, like, everybody's on board. And I wish conservatives would do the same thing. I mean, as you introduced me, you were saying, co-founder of Pretty Little Patriot. Myself, Lindsey Graham, and Pamela Jean Noble all started this conservative clothing line. We did it on a napkin at a Turning Point event. We wrote the logo and everything, and it came out to be two X's, and that was for the XX chromosomes that God gave only women. And where was I going with this? That their marketing is just so woke, and we don't have conservatives on our side for it. So we pushed this brand out, and now we got heat back because not everything was made in America. We have things that are made in Mexico. We have things that are made in Brazil. We do have things that are made in China. And instead of the right supporting us because we were making it affordable for stay-at-home moms, because we believed that only women have XX chromosomes, because we believe that life is valuable in the womb, they're like, well, but you don't, you're not 100% made in America, so we're going to ditch you. And I just wish that we could have the same unity that the left has.
Yeah, I mean, they're thick as thieves. If they're like, well, we kind of disagree on this, but you know what? You're on the same main path as us, whereas we are very tribal. I think you and I, that was one of our first conversations we had at the Reawaken event. It's literally like, so I have Awake Not Woke clothing, and half of our stuff is made in America. The rest, it's people don't understand business. That's the other thing. They've worked for people their whole life, whether they're conservatives or liberal, whatever. It's impossible. Hats specifically. I don't know. Do you guys have hats?
We don't have hats and sunglasses. It's impossible.
Yeah, you can't get hats made in America unless you're spending $40 for blank. Like, it just doesn't.
Well, and that's what you're paying. So then your consumer is paying
has to pay 70,
upwards of 60, 70. No one spends that on a hat. And I did a poll. I asked, would you rather have something that's affordable or something made in America? Everyone's, says I want it to be affordable. And unfortunately, that's right now, it's not made in America then. Because again, blank sweatshirts, just the sweatshirt alone is $40. Then we have to print it. Then we have to, ship it to you, and we have to do packaging, and that all adds up, and no one's spending $75 on a hoodie.
Why don't do you guys do Shopify, Printify at all?
We do Shopify.
Okay. So you can get you can get some decent costs. There's some companies that, like Bella Canvas is made in America, Next Level, half and half, but it's like across the board, it's very, very difficult. And your sales every $5 mark you go up, your sales are going to go down a pretty decent percentage. And
I would rather just support companies that love America and that aren't woke. Yeah. Because I can't stand scrolling through my phone and then an ad that of a company that I would support now has LGBTQ BS stuff on it, and my children are seeing that.
What companies
So
do you avoid now?
I don't do Target. I haven't done Target in years. And my husband and I went in there for the first time today in a long time because he had to go pee. We go in there and I'm like keeping my head down. And he said, I think they've removed the majority of their stuff. And like, good on Target, but come June, it's all going to be back.
Yeah.
And they're just not a company I can trust anymore. I don't do Target. I don't do Starbucks.
Same.
That's a hard no for me. I won't do Starbucks. And there's so many other great coffee companies.
Starbucks is garbage. I don't understand why
Right?
people go there. It's
It
terrible.
was easy for me to give up because I'm not a coffee drinker. I like chai and I can make chai at home easily.
Yeah. So I'm with you, by the way. So Target,
Okay.
there's not really a Target really out here, so it's not a huge deal. I did used to shop at one in Dallas. I don't do Starbucks is my like hard line. I avoid, and I
Yeah, me
try to
too.
do my best to never buy Coke products unless it's at a restaurant. I don't drink a lot of
Same.
soda anyways, but and
Which,
now I don't
wait,
drink.
on like
Now
a
I don't
total
drink any soft
tangent,
drinks.
but okay, so I'm not a soda drinker either, but did you see, apparently the study was done a long time ago, but did you see how dirty the ice is in the
Yeah, that's what I was
machines?
gonna say. I'm never doing it. Like now, if I'm just getting warm water.
Yeah, so anybody
Blech.
who's listening, the ice, this study is done. The ice is dirtier than the toilet water in the same restaurant. I mean, that's foul. I guess it's never cleaned. But then, the soda's not any better. And then people are like, "Well, soda's not good for you anyway." Okay, well, I get it, but
Yeah, I don't. I try. I mean, when I'm out of shape, I'm drinking soda. When I'm like drinking a crap load, I just
totally.
yeah. I
Yeah.
avoid. I try to avoid soda at all costs. But yeah, I saw it was from 2006, and it was a high school something project, and then they
Yeah.
like nobody was willing to check it because it's way too big a business. They're like, oh, fast food industry, so you can't even get a. So that's where they make their markup, by the way. Like
Totally.
food costs so high, but when you're charging $2 for a soda, that's literally 90% profit. That's
Oh, it's
absurd.
insane. I mean,
Yeah.
the cup is what, 5 cents, and that's basically what you're paying
That's
for.
pretty much what you're paying
Who
for.
else don't? You know what? I try to do public square as much as possible, and I really do try to avoid Amazon. I'm trying to think of other major woke
Amazon stuff.
companies.
I use Amazon. It's just life to me. Walmart I still use. What about Nike?
Nike, I don't. I have
Yeah.
really boycotted Nike. I can't speak for my whole family. My husband still has some Nikes that he likes. Um, and again, people are like, "Well, you should boycott everything." These
It's
people are
impossible.
telling me this from their phone that's made in China. So
Right.
it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
To me, everybody's doing the best they can with what they have. Yeah, I still go to Walmart. Again, I'm doing the best I can with
If
with
I'm
what I
worth
have.
$10 million, or if I'm making over $1 million a year, I'll change my buying habits to some
Totally.
point. Like the ones that are easy, like there's an alternative to Starbucks. I think I Public Square I do like, but it does not function like Amazon. I'm sorry, it doesn't. No there's so many great shoes I think that are better than Nike. The other one that I quit on, that I didn't have a ton of product from. Have you ever heard of Noble?
No. Is this shoes?
It's like it's a shoes, clothing. It's all about it's a CrossFit brand.
Okay.
They went. I don't care if you want to get excited in June and do the whole whatever, but they did a whole thing in June 2 years ago, not this June, but the year before, where it was trans athletes, and I'm like celebrating men. I'm like, CrossFit, you're gonna really want men compete? Like that was where I'm like, all right, we are done here. We're done.
Oh my gosh.
We're done.
No, I can't do that. And again, I'm one of those people, I don't like seeing the gay stuff, but I want to clarify. I have gay friends. My issue is when you bring it to children, when you bring it into schools, when you bring it into the public, and then I have a zero tolerance for the trans community. That is something I have empathy for that community because I truly do think it's a mental disorder.
Yeah.
And they need help and they're not getting the help that they need. Instead, the United States is affirming lies instead of speaking truth into these individuals. So, yeah, I mean, the whole LGB, what was it originally? LGB?
LGB,
Was it just
yeah.
when
LGB.
when it was just the gay community? Like, okay, fine, like go do you.
It
But
was a psyop though, because Let's Go Brandon, they knew 7 years ago that they had to change it to LGBT because they didn't want to be confused with the Let's Go Brandon. I'm kidding. Totally a joke. I'm joking.
that would
Um,
be it's not impossible though. I mean, that's a total Babylon B.
I'm sure. And I'm sure some of some of Bobby's followers that are haters of him will probably be like, Bobby, you don't understand. This was planned. My favorite thing is actually Bobby Sauce's hater followers. They're my
Oh,
favorite
I like the
because
hater followers.
they expose the lunacy of our side. Like,
Yeah.
it's both ways. It's pretty bad both
I like to my new favorite button on Instagram is the restrict button because there's, you know, it's fun to do a block because you're like, I'm just done with you. But yeah, when they bring like good content to your page and you can just screenshot it and go show it for everybody to see. I love those. I
ways.
love
So how
those
does
people.
restrict work different than block?
So block, they can't ever see your stuff ever again.
Right.
Restrict, they see your stuff, but when they comment, no one can see their comment except for you.
I didn't
It's
know that. I like that.
genius. Oh, it's
That is pretty
amazing.
good.
So you're still like getting to them, but they can't, you know, they can't really participate in the conversation.
That's awesome. All right. So I want to have kind of our difference in opinion conversation. How it all, like one of our first conversations when we were at Reawaken. And I do want to talk obviously about some of the chemicals and stuff with water and get into that because I know we both,
Okay.
I think, do you still do stuff with Century?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we both do
Yeah.
stuff with Century. So we'll talk about that in a second. But first, our first conversation, and you brought up too the right to life, pro-life. And then you also earlier brought up the kind of my body, my choice when it comes to vaccines. So as somebody that is pro-life, and everybody that watches knows that I'm mostly conservative, but I do have a slightly difference in opinion with the pro-life argument. I do believe Roe versus Wade should have been overturned. I think it should be a state's right. I don't think it should be federal. That's where I go from there. When it comes to the idea of the bodily autonomy and how fierce we are with don't touch our body with a jab, how do you start to differ in terms of the pro-life argument?
Because it's completely different. One, you're injecting something into your own body. Um, and the whole again, it's such a great thing that the left did. They said my body, my choice.
Right.
It's not your body. If it was your body, then when we perform an abortion, you'd be the one that dies.
Right.
An abortion doesn't kill the mom. That's a completely separate human that's living inside of you. And I think so. I have been pro-life since the moment I was conceived. My mom worked on the Reagan administration. She was very pro-life when it wasn't even cool to be pro-life. Like it really wasn't talked about. And so that's just been in my DNA and I've always spoken about it. But then when I became a mom, when I felt a child inside me kick for the first time, when I had 2 miscarriages, when just all of those moments, when I was given the choice to, you know, do you want to abort your baby and save your own life? I'm just thinking, like, at no point in no situation should a child have to pay for the sins of their father or their mother. And I don't think someone's life is less important because of how they were conceived. And so in the cases of rape, there's so many other options. I feel like, first of all, if you're raped, you go to the police station right away and
Yeah.
you get it taken care of. But if you didn't, you still give birth to that baby and someone else raises that baby, or you raise that baby. Like Christy Yurgin raised her son. Actually, you know what? Take that out. I don't think that was rape. I think that was a boyfriend. Take that out.
No, and I agree with you. Like, and this is the argument I have. And first off, to be very clear, from my own life, I don't believe it's right, but I believe that I think it's a very nuanced subject. But like you said, when people do the whole, well, in the cases of rape and incest, I'm like, if you're going to go that far, your literal message is based on it's not up to, like, it's not the child's fault. So it's not the child's fault either way. If you're going to have a belief system, I think you have to go all the way. Now, looking at the concept of like the vaccine, there are people, wackadoos, but people that believe that if you don't get, like that doctor, if you don't get vaccinated, you are hurting other people. That can potentially mirror the idea if you're aborting a baby, you're aborting you're aborting somebody else, you're hurting somebody else. So that could be I believe it's a false equivalent, but it's still something that could almost tie the argument together. And like I said, I am pro-life in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to other people's lives, that's the gray area where I think it's more nuanced than just pro-life.
Yeah, well, and I feel like, again, I think as pro-lifers, we are called to be the voice of the voiceless. And the voiceless is the child that's inside the womb, who can feel everything and whose life is valuable. So I don't think we can play God in any situation. And as far as the vaccine, I mean, if it works, which it doesn't, but if it works, then you should be okay. And if you're double masking in the car, then you should be okay. I don't think that there's any data proving that, I mean, the whole fear tactic that they're like, well, it's now airborne. I mean, do you remember when it's so hard to look back and remember all these moments? I was just reading Lindsey Graham, Patriot Barbie, not the senator, just reading her
Not
book.
the senator that has a boyfriend on the down low. Yeah, yeah.
Right. And she wrote an incredible book about, she kind of defied lockdown. She stayed open, but in her book, she talks about COVID and what people thought it was. And it's interesting to read it because we forgot so much of what they required of us. And I think we forgot all the lunacy, but I don't think you can, again, that's someone else's, like, I just don't think that it doesn't swing the same way. We're talking about an innocent life that you're intentionally murdering, and nowhere in the Constitution do we have the right to take an innocent life.
So do you believe in federal legislation against abortion, or would you keep it at the states?
Um, I mean, I think abortion needs to be banned everywhere. There's no reason. I just No abortion. I'm 100% in any case.
What about so is that a complete ban, or is it heartbeat?
A heartbeat.
Okay. So like a 4 to 7 weeks period. Okay. So
I don't know. Wait, hang on. No, I say complete ban.
Okay.
I'm gonna say complete ban, and I know that people are gonna be like, ah, but I feel like if I'm gonna stand in this, I can't be wishy-washy, and I'm gonna say, like, complete ban.
Do you think that's right constitutionally, though?
That you have to be responsible because you chose to keep your legs open?
So,
Yes.
and here's where I'm going to push back, because constitutionally it's free. It's a freedom of religion. And I think this is where this comes into play. So you and I believe, you believe, and I believe it's to me, it's just, it's more nuanced. And I am not disrespecting your stance.
No,
Trust me.
don't think you are.
When I was growing up, the pro-lifers were the crazy ones. They're the ones out with the dead baby posters. Now you've got the crazy ones that are like getting birthday cakes being like, killed my baby. I'm like, you're a wackadoo. Like, this is something that if you have it, it's something you keep quiet and it should be done very, very early, heartbeat area of the pregnancy. That's my belief system. So the idea, where was I talking about? Oh, so from a religious perspective, we believe as Christians that life begins at conception because that's in the Bible. As an American, you don't have to believe in the Bible. So from a scientific perspective,
even though our country was founded on God.
Founded on Christianity, but we're also, the Constitution allows for freedom of religion.
Yeah.
So there's religions that, is more science-based, or people don't have any religion. Also, you're allowed in the Constitution. So you could believe in nothing and you can say, well, life begins at a heartbeat, or life begins when it's viable outside the womb. There are scientists that will say across the board, there's some that'll say life begins at conception, that are also typically based more on a religious belief system. Life begins at a heartbeat. Life begins as a sick puppy, but when it comes out of the vagine, like, it could be
essentially location determines if you're
right.
human or not.
And I think that since it is such a broad subject, I think there is a common sense middle ground that I think that more people would get behind if we did something like a 10 or 12-week ban, that both sides, I think it's better. That, to me, that's why I think it's more of an agreeable topic. But don't you think that your decision making is more based on religion, which isn't fair constitutionally? It might be just, it might be right, it might be more Christian, but don't you think that actually kind of goes against the Constitution of the United States of America?
Well, where in the Constitution does it say that we have the right to murder innocent life?
But it's only innocent life if you believe it's life. and the belief that it's life is based on how you feel it's religious backing.
Okay. So let me take this back to the left loves puppies. They love dogs. They love animals. Sarah McLachlan made us all fall in love with, animals.
In the
So
arms of
we
me.
find out, that my dog is pregnant with puppies, a sweet little litter, 4 weeks along. Well, I don't want to deal with them. So can I go to the vet and just abort her puppies? I mean, people would be like pissed, right?
Well,
And I
mean,
know a dog isn't pregnant for 9 months, so it's different if it's different timelines there. But when
so
we
you're
found
saying
out,
if you
it was
find
early
out,
enough.
yeah, like 7 days in would be the equivalent of a heartbeat or
Yeah, I
something
mean,
like
can you
that.
go in and be like, "Hey, I want to abort my dog's puppies"?
I don't know. I don't. It's so.
I feel as though I understand what you're saying.
But no, actually, let
And,
me
and
counter
I
that real
get that
quick
there
because
needs to be like this situation, because I do feel like if you are raped, you should be able to go the first week and like, I don't know. I know it's like
it's a very tough topic. And
it's
I
hard.
thought of an idea with the dog. The issue with the dog is if the dog was barking to the owner like I need this out, because technically you're affecting the life of the baby dog and the dog, which they don't have a right to it. Again, I don't think it's murder. It's just weird and sick
Yeah.
to kill the. I mean, and again, it's not like the dog is making the decision with its puppies. It's just got
Okay.
weird.
I know. Well, it did get weird, but then I'm like, how could I bring that back? Okay, yeah, so the dog's not making the decision. Yeah, I'm making the
All I'm
decision.
saying is I think it's nuanced, so I understand some of the issue. The problem with the problem with the right is I think a lot of the people that are, especially men, not women, are staunch pro-life. They all think that every abortion is with forceps and ripping a baby out of the vagina. That's not accurate. Like
Right.
90% of abortions happen with a pill in the first 10 weeks of pregnancy, and that is the whole. And I think the scare is that we are a unfortunately irresponsible society that makes these decisions, and they're in fear of what if it comes up. Now we've swung the pendulum so far on the whole, like, you gotta allow this, and it's a little bit wackadoo, but I just think it's a more nuanced topic. That's all.
Well, and I would agree with you in the sense that for me, in an ideal world, abortion is banned across the board. However, in a realistic world, in a world where we need to get someone in the Republican Party who is pro-life elected, I think it would be smartest to have like a 10-week ban.
Yeah.
Um, that would never be a situation for me that I would participate in. I still feel like all life is precious. It would really still make me cringe. But if we're talking about how to excel politically, then yes, I'm with you. And I do believe that that needs to be something that a candidate should choose. But for me personally, I think it should be banned across the board.
That's fair. And that's fair. And I do. And that's where we get into the tribal side and the greater
Right.
picture. The greater picture is we need to win. And
Absolutely.
I hate the fact that I do firmly believe, and I think the Democrats have tried to keep that quiet now because they want to push the pro-life. If you're a pro-life candidate, I think that should be mentioned and then moved on. Because
Yeah.
if you're going to win your primary with it, but you are going to lose the general. I think we saw that in the primary, and I think them avoiding. They're like, I mean, it helped ish. No, the midterms were lost by the red wave was lost in my
Yep.
opinion, and based on anybody that really looks at statistics on the abortion topic.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Let's talk about our sponsors real quick on Blunt Force Discussion. Get this out as fast as possible. One of our favorites, and we do talk a lot about water and health on this episode. Go to Century H2O and use Russo10 for 10% off. If you see me drinking water during the show, it's right out of the tap. It's from underneath the sink because I use one of those filtration systems that's going to get you about $30 off of a $330 unit, $300. You don't need to buy filters. You don't need to be buying bottles of water the rest of the year. None of that breaded garbage, and it's way better water for you. If you want to support the show, you can do it things like the Dr. Artist Show, BFD at checkout for 10% off. You can get stuff that gets rid of the jibbity jab juice. You can also prepare yourself for the next illness that you might get, a severe cold or COVID. Same thing. Go ahead and go to thedrartistshow.com, BFD at checkout. I know a lot of you guys use those products from this show. New one, guys. We have got my book is now available for pre-order, The Art of Doubling Down. It's all about overcoming failure. Go ahead and do me a favor. I need help. Go to barnesandnoble.com, buy it from there, and then send me the receipt. And if you want it, because it's not until April 2nd that it's out, send me the receipt. And also $10 on Venmo, just pay for shipping, and I'll send you a signed copy. So give me your address. The email address is below, doubledownstrategy@gmail.com. What else is left? Of course, the gear. Not a single one of us regrets taking it. Not a single one. You can get our Wake Not Woke stuff there. Be the change stuff. Go to wakenotwokestore.com. Use Awake for 15% off. Last but not least, if you just want to randomly support the show, go to patreon.com/blunt force discussion. It's as quick as I get through it. Thanks, guys. And I hope you enjoy the show. So as somebody that's a cancer survivor, and I talk about what we're seeing with the vaccine and how we're seeing raise cancer rates like through the roof. I think it's a multi-pronged issue. And you had cancer well before, obviously, there was a COVID shot, or there could be viral shedding, or any of those things. But I think that it's something dealing with the fact that, and you and I both have connection to this, plastics have just been pumped into our society. We microwave things in Tupperware. We drink more bottled water than we ever have. And we think that, well, if it's in the car, I throw it away, it heats up. Guess in transport, I'm going to tell you, it's been the whole time it's been heated up at one point or another. And somebody like you, pretty healthy, I'm sure, when you had cancer, it's a big issue. And from a health perspective, as somebody that's overcome cancer, chemotherapy, et cetera, what do you think is our biggest health threat? And we're also, by the way, our life expectancy has gone down for the first time in over 100 years. It's kind of scary.
Global warming. I'm just kidding.
Well said.
Greta Thunberg.
Greta.
What is our biggest? You know what? I think there's a lot. I don't think there's one key issue. I think it's just a lot of little things. And I think a lot of it is people are uneducated. And I don't say that in a mean way. I will say it. I was uneducated. I used to heat up stuff in the microwave in the Tupperware because it just wasn't like a big thing, you know? And then you start to learn these things and realize that's gross. And even just little things like red dye, blue dye. These are things that I grew up on. I mean, we didn't get a lot of the sugary cereals. We were a pretty healthy family, but every once in a while we would. And the red dye and blue dye wasn't a big thing back then. And now I'm like, I don't want that stuff with my kids. And so to me, it's like all these little things. And even, I mean, here's a pitch for Century H2O, but honestly, changing my water was a big thing because I didn't realize how much was in your water. Again, me being naive, I thought, well, of course they filter out heavy metals, pharmaceuticals, fluoride, arsenic, chlorine. No.
Nope.
I mean, that's another thing. Fluoride. Like, we don't need that much fluoride. It's in our water. We don't need it in our toothpaste. We don't need fluoride treatment on our teeth. It's in our foods. You could go down a whole path of this because I don't think it's one thing. I mean, think of the meat, all the stuff that they're pushing into our meat. I think, again, I'm trying to live a balanced life of making smart choices and also living and not living in fear.
So when it came to the water, so again, when I met Nelson. Was it through you?
It might have been through me.
Can't remember how. Oh no, his PR company found me in this show, and then we started talking. We knew you, and I just met you. It was a bunch of weird connection. It was like the month after I saw you reawaken. So as a whole, like, what do you think our biggest health issue is in this country right now? Is it the plastic situation? Is it vaccines? What do you think it is? Pharmaceuticals?
I'm going to take a different turn on this, but I feel like it's big government and big pharma. Because regardless of what the scary thing is, the government and big pharma are the ones that are pushing it. And if they want you to be sick, you'll get sick. I mean, because to me, you avoid all these different foods, but then you find out again that they're pumping it into your meat. So I don't know. I mean, what do you think is the biggest? If you had to name one thing.
I think your idea with pharma and government, I think it's a money based thing. Because here's what I like to talk about is the fact that the messaging is so controlled that people will actually look at us like we'll talk to you, me, Bobby, Anomaly, like, oh, seed oils, you're an idiot. Seed oils aren't that bad. Look at this article. And it's like this article was written essentially by pharmaceutical through an through an NGO or through something, not an NGO, but you know what I mean, through a charity. And they'll find a way to make it like this thing like, no, you're not at risk by eating this stuff. And you start to really think about why we can't get good information anywhere from mainstream media to even Google. Have you ever known anybody that saw a commercial for some kind of pharmaceutical drug and was like, I need to tell my doctor about that? No, you don't. So why
No.
is 70% of our advertisements based in the pharmaceutical industry? Why specifically the CNNs, the Foxes? Why are their main advertiser a conglomeration of people that people will never buy? That's the whole purpose of advertising. It's so blatant to me that is how they're paying for their programming. They know that if they spend enough money, that they're able to control the news that comes out about them. And that's the scariest part, because it's the misinformation with not allowing free thought and to really go, what we're putting in our bodies is bad. We need to start talking about this. That leads to all of the issues, all the way from childhood vaccinations to current vaccinations to also the fact that they should have banned certain plastic bottles a long damn time ago.
Well, and to me, this is the concern of why free speech is so incredibly important. Because as you and I both know, I'll put something up on Instagram, on any social media platform, and it gets tagged as false information or taken down. I don't know where the disconnect is, but as a United States citizen, I should be able to say whatever I want. I should be able to tell the public a lie, and it is your choice and your responsibility to do your due diligence and figure out if it's true or not. I should be able to say what I want, and you should be able to decide, is that something, like, do I want to believe her? Is she a credible source or not? But to not even let us hear the facts about it, that's what's scary. And that's why I want to follow those people who post things and who get these misinformation flags, because I'm thinking, why don't they want me to say that?
Right.
I mean, and I also think it goes back to your question about the commercials. I think when your doctor recommends it to you and you're like, oh yeah, I've seen that on my TV, like, it's got to be safe. I've seen it on my TV,
Yeah.
like, people are talking about it, the whole Ozempic thing.
Yeah.
People trust it.
Yeah. I think now they're working on a weight loss drug for 6-year-olds. That's the newest thing. That's a real thing. Like,
Yeah, and I feel like any 6-year-old who is overweight, like, I'm not talking about like heavy, I'm
yeah.
talking about like obese.
Yeah.
Are how many hours a day are they playing video games? How many hours a day are they going outside to play? What foods are they eating? Are they drinking soda? These are basic questions. Like,
And I do think
basic.
that relates to childhood vaccines too. I think we've become our systems have been broken down where maybe we can't, and the food's gotten worse. The vaccines have increased. Like, we are leading to an unhealthier society of lifetime users,
Yeah.
essentially, of the pharmaceutical system.
Well, and it's so scary that you have high cholesterol, so you get onto a medication that will lower your cholesterol, but then that medication makes you depressed, and so you get on an
Right.
antidepressant, and that makes you suicide. I mean, all the different things, and it's just a vicious cycle. So to me, you get out of it, like, from the starting point of what we talked about. You get out of it completely. You completely remove yourself from the system, and you detox mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yeah, you're a mechanic trying to fix an old used car, and they just keep putting stuff together and making more and more and more money.
Exactly. Yeah.
100%. So you always have great information. I'm going to try to do a couple quick topics before we get out of here. You have very long form content, a lot long form for today's standards,
Yeah, I
and
know.
it's
It's usually a minute and 20 seconds, and people have told me, like, get it down to a minute.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
you have great engagement, so you get everything out, and it's important to do that. Where do you get the bulk of your information?
Um, a lot of different things. I love Libs of TikTok. I actually met her recently. She's wonderful. She's very educated, very informed, and I like to take her things as lunacy as they are and put a little bit more depth behind it, like, explain it a little bit more, because she puts it out there and it's just
Yeah.
wild. But to really break it down. I love Babylon Bee, I'm sorry, not the Bee.
Not to be.
Daily Wire, my Fox. My husband and I just my husband watches the news religiously,
Yeah.
and I just go to him often for a lot of my information too. But even followers, I mean, people send me stories all the time too.
You got to vet them a little bit. I think
You totally
Fox,
have to vet them.
I give Fox a bad rap, but I mean, they're still, it's funny. If you were to truly watch from an objective perspective and I just met some of the people from Fox, like Abby Hornacek and Lawrence Jones. There's some really great people that work there. I think the Tucker
Yeah.
situation's BS, but they are so much more centered than any of the other major. I mean, you can talk crap about them. People can, but they're still better than the rest. And their news stories are a great starting point. I agree with that.
They
They're a
are.
great
And I
start.
will say my husband always makes a point to also watch like CNN and MSNBC, which like cringes me. Sometimes he watches Rachel Maddow. I cannot stand her voice. I cannot stand her and her points. And my husband can't either, but he's like, I have to see what the left is saying. If you want to be able to have an educated discussion about these things and
Yeah.
not just be like the left and scream and yell, I need to see what are they saying about the topic? So sometimes I do force myself to watch the more liberal stuff just so I can be educated about what they're being told.
You have to understand what they're being fed so you can feel like, how can people possibly think, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
they're
that's why.
getting that information. How Israel, I know, is a huge, big topic. I think you have been on the more pro-Israel side, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just more on the like not killing innocent people side. And
Yeah.
I talked to Anthony, conservative Ant, recently, and he was like, I'm just on the pro-America side. Like I'm just focusing on America right now. But I feel like it's gonna sneak over here either way. It already is. And I'm more about, yeah, I mean, I'm more pro-Israel
I
because
think there is a right and wrong, and I think that, and I don't think Israel's perfect. I know that. I think
oh
you and I are
yeah.
very similar. Are you friends with Anomaly, right?
Oh, I'm not.
No? Oh, I thought he was talking about you. He was just saying somebody that I respect a lot, and he wouldn't say a name. And he's like, but
Okay.
they're very pro-Israel, and he's like him,
Okay.
Bobby, Ian Went, who I love all of them. I think they're great people. Like we have a little bit of a disagreement in this sense that like I do think it's a globalist play. I do think Israel has a very corrupt government, but we're comparing a bad government and terrorism, and I think that that's what we
Yes,
have
and
to
to me,
remember.
I'm like, no, I'm against Hamas. I'm not necessarily against, the
Yeah.
people of Palestine. Um, there's a really bad organization, and it's yeah.
Yeah. And there's more to play like with
And my heart just aches. I also have a lot of Jewish friends. My heart just aches right now for that community.
And I'm half Jewish, and it's funny, and I'm somebody that was like pro Kanye when before he was like Hitler had some good qualities. I'm like, okay, I'm out. But like he had some valid points. My family has said this forever. And like, Jews run Hollywood, like this, that, and the other. And yeah, there's the Holocaust, which is a huge issue, like huge blip in history. But at the same time, there's some skeezy stuff that happens in the Jewish community. And it's like, it is life. And I almost regret the fact that I took that stance because I believe it's led to the programming we have now where nobody believes mainstream media and all mainstream media is more pro-Israel. And I think that it's all that kind of, from a conspiracy theory point, it's been programming. The Kanye stuff was an introduction to anti-Semitism from a very soft perspective. And it's like, here we are. Hamas literally just killed over 1,000 Jews. And people are like, maybe there was a reason. It's like, whoa, how did we go from that to that? It's weird.
Yeah. How did we go from you guys calling us Nazis to now that's what you're doing? Like that's what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
It's horrific. What's happening is horrific. And yeah, my heart goes out to them.
Last two quick questions. How did you become an influencer? How did you get involved in this?
It was during COVID. I think there's very little good that came out of COVID, but that was one of the things. I decided to get on, and I played this character, Principal Schmidt, who hasn't shown herself very long, but she's a principal who would talk about all of these crazy stories that were happening at my kids' school. I mean, I remember they weren't allowed to make a Valentine's Day box for Valentine's because COVID could be on that box and you would bring that box to school. But my kid could go into school and they could have a COVID on their clothes, whatever, in there. it was bizarre, but they were making the Valentine's Day boxes at school, and it was safe because it was at school. Wild stories. I just started doing this Principal Schmidt thing, and people picked up on it and were like, okay, that's funny because it's actually true and it's really sad. And then I feel like I've always had a really bold voice, but I really found my voice being like, I'm going to stick up for my kids and stick up for what's going on, and this isn't right. And I remember one day I was like, oh my gosh, I have 2,000 followers. And I truly prayed over my account, and I was like, God, if this is where you want me, because I was just a stay-at-home mom. I'm like, if this is where you want me, like, I want you to breathe life into this account. And if not, like, shut the door. And I'm telling you, within a week I had 10,000. It just grew and grew and grew. And now I was at 220, and they're taking followers from me. I probably lose 700 a day and I gain around 800 a day. So I'm really, really shadow banned right now, but I'm thankful that I have this voice, and I'm thankful that I can use the voice that God really blessed me with.
So you've got Kendall _in Kentucky. Sorry, Kendall _in Kentucky. And then you're the co-founder of Pretty Little Patriot.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what's the biggest, we've kind of covered the biggest threats to this country, I think. So let me ask you one other question, because I just remembered, I forgot you actually went to East Palestine.
I did. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that experience, because I know Nelson talked about it. He doesn't have the following you have, so I think more people are going to see it here. Sounds like it was a weird sitch.
It was a weird situation. I went down to East Palestine. I remember calling Nelson and saying, like, we've got to do something for these people. And he's like, let's do it. And I think I took maybe 5 or 10 filtration systems down at the time, because that's all we had right away. And so I took these filtration systems down with my photographer, and she videoed a lot of it for me. And we were handing them out to basically, we wanted to go to like the fire department and the school and just the library, so people could go and get clean water in a specific place. Well, the fire department said, well, we can't accept this, because if we accept this, we'll lose our funding. Essentially, then we're admitting that something's wrong with the water, and we can't say that something's wrong with the water, even though everybody knows something's wrong with the water. So then I realized everybody needs a filtration system, and Nelson agreed, and they donated, and we raised money I went back, and brought, I think 250 some water filtration systems to the people of East Palestine. And we were there the same time as Donald Trump. It was incredible to be there. It was horrific to hear some of the stories. We were there when FEMA was there, and they were handing out flyers, and we were asking questions, and it was just so bizarre, the answers that they were giving. They weren't really FEMA. They weren't really doing anything. And then to talk to these people that were, I talked to an individual, Don, who lived houses away from where the actual train derailed, and in his backyard, truly in his backyard, was the train tracks. And so many dead animals. And I remember getting a lot of heat on my content, on my social media, being like, well, there's always dead animals on a railroad track because the animals are crossing. But then I'm telling you, the video that I got was tons of dead. I mean, we walked for maybe 30 feet and we saw 8 dead animals. And to me, this has to do with the water. These animals are dying. They're not just dying on the tracks. They were everywhere. It was crazy. And then this Don individual was telling us that, the government never received money. They never said that they would come in and help them clean up their home after all the, smoke and soot and debris in their house. And his biggest fear was just being able to bathe his children with clean water and drink clean water. And that should not be a problem or a concern in America.
Do you keep in contact with any of the people from, is it East Palestine?
It's East Palestine.
And
I mean, I have several of them are now following me. I kind of keep in touch with them. I have one gentleman's phone number, Don.
Has anything been done? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of. No. And I mean, other than Donald Trump going down there and giving bottled water, I think these people have been left. It's really sad. And these aren't.
Sorry, we got to worry about Ukraine, Kendall. We got to worry about Israel, Ukraine.
We need to make it rain on the crane a little bit longer. I mean, these people, so many people on my Instagram were like, why don't these people just move? To where? These are small town people. Their whole livelihood is built here. And who's going to come in and build, buy their home from them? No,
right. Their home's devalued.
Their home. You can't sell it now. You can sell it if it's a land grab, I guess. I mean, I guess the government's going to come in and buy them, but no, this is horrific what happened to these people. And I mean, I went down there, and then I mean, I
Did you
haven't
feel
been back
sick
since I
from
went
just being
twice,
in
but
the air?
absolutely. As we were driving down the first time, we were not quite to East Palestine, and it's a small town, very small. And as we got there, myself and my videographer were both saying like our throats started kind of getting really itchy. We both had rashes when we left. It was a bad situation, and we didn't want to spend the night there. We didn't end up spending the night. We were there for like all day and then left. I just thought we can't eat here. We can't drink the water here. I don't want to be here any longer than I have to be. And I felt so bad at the same time because these people are living there. The second time I went back, I went with my kids and my husband because I wanted them to see what was going on. Again, a lot of people were like, that was so irresponsible of you to take your kids. But we were giving back to the community, and it was amazing to see my kids giving these water filtration systems out to these people, and just getting a sense of what other people in the world go through, other people in America go
Oh yeah,
through.
not the world.
Yeah,
Our
not the
own
world, in
country.
America.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a really cool. It was during our spring break, and that's what we did.
Well, you're a badass. Any final words you could have for people, and then we're gonna wrap her up?
You know what? I'm going to speak to my parents really quick. And I say, as far as parenting goes, if you have, I don't want to, I feel like so many people bash public schools. My children, I'm a product of public schools. My children are a product of public schools. We have an incredible one that we go to, and I think there are really great ones out there. But what I will say, if you can't afford private, or if you like your public school, make sure that you're involved in every way possible. I'm talking about field trips, making copies. The teachers love when you make copies, and then you can see what's actually being taught in the classroom. Go deliver treats to the staff just so you can kind of get to know them. Be on the PTO any way possible. Involve yourself in your kid's school, so you know what's going on.
I love it. Kendall, thank you so much for the time. I know we went over. I should have warned you. I always go over.
That's okay. I love
Yeah,
it.
it was a good chat. Thank you so much. Make sure you guys go follow Kendall in Kentucky. Again, at Kendall_in_Kentucky. And check out Pretty Little Patriot. You know that I've always got our gear with the Wake Not Woke store, but make sure you check hers out as well.
Thank you.
And, you know, we do the Century H2O as well. I'm going to keep saying as well. I'm just going to keep using stupid words over and over again. And hopefully we'll see you again as well. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.